Hi, everyone. I'm going to wish everyone a happy new year. My name is Jeannie Breedy. Welcome you to another Winsor & Newton class. Today, we are going to be drawing with Mandy Peltier, pardon me, and she is going to be creating some artwork around snowflakes. So I want just people to give me a shout out from where you're at as we let some people into the chat, into the room with us. Let me know where you're joining us from. I'd be happy to hear that. Maybe you're in a place where there are a lot of snowflakes. We happen to be in an area where there's not. So all good here. I'm going to introduce Mandy, and we're going to just jump into the class. We have an hour set aside. We've sent you a stencil for reference, and we've given you instructions. So we hope that you'll be able to follow along, but also realize that it's being recorded. So no stress, enjoy the class. And Mandy, why don't you introduce, get the class going for us.
Thank you, Jeannie. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all today. And I even see some kids in the audience. I love teaching kids. So welcome to all of you who are here, kids and adults alike. So like Jeannie said, my name is Mandy Peltier, and I am an artist and instructor. I have taught 3 other classes for Winsor & Newton and Michael's stores, and you can view those on Michael's YouTube channel. All 3 of my previous classes were done using Winsor & Newton watercolor pencils, but today we're actually going to use watercolor pans or cakes. I'm going to use the Skechers pocket set. So if you've taken my previous classes or you've watched them on YouTube, you know that sometimes I have a hard time staying within the 1-hour limit. So if you want to learn more about me, you can just go to my website, mandypeltier.com, and read more about me there. I'm going to go ahead and share my other camera so we can get started. Okay, so like I normally do, here's the overhead view. I just want to go over the supplies super quick. This is what the project looks like finished, and I'll just pull this over here. I put this in a float frame that's 9 by 12 inches, and I got this from the michaels.com website. So it's just one idea or suggestion of how you can use your finished artwork. And then you could always swap this out in a different season for different art, you know, maybe put 3 leaves in the fall or flowers in the summer. So I just wanted to show you that. And I'll kind of keep this nearby so we can use the finished snowflakes as a reference as we work. And then I'm going to be using 2 watercolor brushes. I'm going to be using a number 4 and a number 2 round. I'm using Cotman watercolor brushes, but you can use whatever round watercolor brushes you have at home. I'll be using a graphite pencil. And then, like I said, the Pocket Skechers set of the Cotman watercolors. You should have a piece of cold press watercolor paper already cut to 5 inches by 11 inches. I'm using Winsor & Newton cold pressed watercolor paper, no surprise there. And then you'll also need a ruler, a paper towel, an eraser, a palette, because we're going to mix 5 colors, and a glass of water. So we're going to get started by sketching the snowflakes. And this is going to take us a few minutes because it's a pretty intricate design here. So bear with me because it will take just a few minutes to do this. And I'm only going to keep my ruler, my 5 by 11 sheet of paper, and my graphite pencil out as we draw the snowflakes together. So listen to my instructions because I'm going to give you some measurements using the ruler. But if you want right now, you can use this time just to trace the outline that was provided for the class. You can do that by using either a light box or a well-lit window. So you would hold the outline up to the window and then put your watercolor paper in front of it, and the light from the sun will shine through the window, through the outline, and project it onto your working paper so that you can see it. And then you can use your pencil to trace around. So to try and speed things up, we're not going to be as precise with our ruler, and we're going to freehand or eyeball a few things just to speed along the process. But the outline is very consistent and very symmetrical. So the very first thing, yes.
I just want to interject here. We're getting a lot of inquiries by people saying no outline. If you go into the chat, we just included the download for both all the written instructions, which you could download at your leisure and refer to, but also the stencil that Mandy is referring to. It is included in this chat, and you could just download it.
Thank you, Jeannie. Yes. But I also will give you the measurements with the ruler. So no fretting with that. I'll help you out even if you don't want to take the time right now to trace it. I am going to show you how to draw it. So with your ruler, what we're going to do first is we're going to divide the paper in half going down long. So the long side of the paper is 11 inches. So we're basically going to draw an 11-inch line going down the middle. Now, to determine where the middle is of the paper, what I like to do is I like to make just a little dash or dot on the bottom edge and at the top edge at the halfway point. So if this is 11 inches by 5 inches, half of 5 inches would be 2.5 inches, right? So I'm going to place my ruler up so that 0 is on one edge and then 5 will be on the other edge on the bottom of my paper. And I'm going to make a little mark or dot right at 2.5 inches. Okay, so just a little dot with my graphite pencil. And then at the top, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a little dash or dot just at the 2.5 inch mark, because what this does is this tells me where the halfway point is on the paper. And then I can use my ruler and sort of line it up against both of these little dots I've just made so that I know that my 11-inch line going down the middle is exactly in the middle. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and draw a line. And by the way, today I'm using an F pencil. F stands for fine. It sort of falls in the middle of the H pencils that are hard and lighter in color, and B pencils that are softer and a little bit darker in color. So I'm using this so that you can see a little bit better, and the graphite won't smear as much as an HB or number 2 pencil, since it does sharpen to a really fine point and kind of falls in the middle of the line. I normally recommend you use H pencils because the lead is really, really hard. It doesn't bleed and it's light. So it's hard to see underneath watercolors, but you at home would have a hard time seeing when I'm sketching if I used an H pencil. So I'm using an F today. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my paper from being portrait orientation to being landscape orientation. So I'm just turning it clockwise. And I'm gonna line my ruler back up against that line I just drew. So one edge, the left edge, is gonna be on 0. And then my right edge should be on 11, since this line is 11 inches. And I'm gonna make 3 dots or dashes at 3 different points on the ruler. Okay, and these dots or dashes are gonna mark the very middle point of the 3 snowflakes we're gonna draw. So the very first dash or dot you're going to mark is at 2 1/4 inches on the line. So 2 1/4 inches. Then we'll make another dash or dot at 5.5 inches. And 5.5 inches is at the very middle of the paper, because this is 11 inches, right? So half of 11 is 5.5. And then we'll make another dash or dot at 8 3/4 inches. So we have 2 1/4 inches, 5.5 inches, 8 3/4 inches. All right, so again, and then you can turn your paper back to portrait orientation. So these 3 dots just mark the very middle of all 3 snowflakes, okay? So the top snowflake, the middle snowflake, the bottom snowflake. So now we can actually start sketching our snowflakes. Really, with this particular project, this could be the top snowflake, or this could be the top snowflake. You can do it either way, right? You could even hang it this way. But today we'll have this one be the top snowflake. So this is the one we're going to sketch first. The reason why is this one is the longest one to sketch. It has the most lines and it's the most intricate design. So it's not only the longest one to sketch, it's the longest one to paint as well. So don't fret if by the time we're completely done with this one, you're like, oh my goodness, there's not much time left in the class. I promise you there's enough time to get through the next 2. All right, so essentially every single line on the snowflakes that you see are 2.5 inches. So we're going to be drawing 2.5 inch lines for our snowflakes. So for this top one, we're going to start by drawing across by drawing a 2.5 inch line that is horizontal and one that is vertical. Okay, so what I'm going to do to make sure my 2.5 inch line is the same size on both sides of my middle dot is I'm going to line my ruler up at the 1 1/4 inch mark. So my ruler is on 1 1/4 inches on that little dot I drew for the center snowflake. And I'll write 1 1/4 inches right there so you don't forget. And over here, I'll write the total size of the line. So the total size of the line is 2.5 inches. Half of that is 1 1/4. And then what I'll do is I'll draw my horizontal line from 0 to 2.5. And now I have my first horizontal line for this snowflake. And then I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to draw my other 2.5-inch line by lining my ruler up once again at 1.25 inches on the center. And then I'm going to draw from 0 to 2.5. And then I'll use my eraser to erase what is above that line from my first initial vertical line that I drew, and what is below that line down to my center dot. Okay, so you should just have a cross left for your top snowflake. So you have a vertical line, a horizontal line, both 2.5 inches. Okay, so if you're looking at this as sort of our example, we've drawn this line and this line so far. So now let's draw 2 more lines that go diagonal and make an X. Okay, so we're going to draw a line this way and this way. Now I could just line my ruler up and kind of eyeball where the line should be, but to make sure it perfectly intersects through the middle, these right angles that I have here, I'm going to draw a very light X and a small X going through the center so that I can just sort of make sure everything is the same size here. That just sort of helps me and it guides my ruler, okay? And so then what I can do is I can use my ruler and hold it up to one of those small light X's I drew. I have my ruler at the 1.25 inch mark on the center, and I'm going to draw 2 diagonal lines to make my X.
Mandy, I'm just going to interject something because there's a bit of confusion with the stencil. So if you perhaps see that it's in the chat, if you copy that link and open it in your browser, you will then possibly be able to get the download that way. Many of us are successful at opening it right from the chat, but that's another option for you. So we apologize for any inconvenience. And yeah, it was an oversight, it appears, that we just found out. So that's why we put it in the chat for you. So I guess we just want everybody to follow along. Once again, the class is being recorded and the instructions are also available. And we want you to relax and follow along and do the best you can because this is being recorded.
Yes, that's a great point. This will be uploaded tomorrow on Michael's website and their YouTube channel. So you can always rewatch and follow along with the directions I'm giving you here. But just know that the basic formula is that all of these lines are 2.5 inches. Okay. And I've basically just made a star here by drawing 5 lines that all intersect each other. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw a circle in the very middle of this snowflake, just like you see in my finished example. And I'm going to start my circle about 1/8 of an inch up and go around. And I'm just eyeballing this. You could totally use a stencil. I used a stencil for the outline, but to save time today, we're not using a stencil. So just draw a circle right in the middle. And it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch up from the center. All right. And then after we draw the center circle, and the circle is probably about 1/2 of an inch wide, I would say. But after we draw the center circle, we're now going to draw these hearts or leaves that mirror each other on each of these lines we have now. All right. So I'm going to start about 1/8 of an inch up from the top of the circle here. If we're pretending this is a clock and this is 12 o'clock. So about 1/8 of an inch up, and I'm going to draw a heart or 2 pairs of leaves that mirror each other. I'm going to separate each set of leaves or each heart by about as 1/8 of an inch or so. And I'm going to fit 5 on each of these lines that are here. So just draw 5 hearts or pairs of leaves on each of these smaller lines that protrude from the center circle. And you can see that I'm drawing them so that they all go out the same direction from the center. I think snowflakes are an amazing thing. Everything is perfectly balanced and consistent, and everything mirrors each other. Everything's symmetrical. So even though these snowflakes are not going to be as perfect looking as what you can find in nature, we still do want everything to be as symmetrical as we can make it and to mirror each other. So that's why we're drawing these pairs of leaves so that they all run the same direction going out from the center. And you can see that I'm turning my work as I go because it does sort of help me maintain control and work sort of from the same angle. Okay, but this is what you're doing. You're just drawing 5 hearts or pairs of leaves on each of these smaller lines. And try to make them all about the same size. If you were to measure these from one edge to the other edge, it would be about 1/4 of an inch in width. But just make them as best as you can. And now what we're going to do, and you can just listen to my directions right now if you're not done drawing your hearts or pairs of leaves. We're going to do another intersection of lines going through all these openings. All right, so that's going to be 4 more 2.5-inch lines or 8 small lines, depending on how you want to look at it. And I think this is a small enough space that we can just eyeball these lines to save some time and not use our ruler. So I'm just going to sort of start my mark at the center and pull down to the center intersection and then continue my line. And I'm going to do that to all these openings. I'm going to eyeball a line going right through the middle of all of these openings. And you can look at this finished one as an example so you can see what I'm drawing here. You could use a ruler if you wanted. If you wanted to take your time and draw this, you would be just drawing 4 more 2.5-inch lines that go through perfectly in the middle of these openings, okay? And to these lines, and we'll consider these 8 small lines, we're gonna draw these 2, I'm calling them arrows. They're sort of greater than symbols or 2/3 of the triangles, but I'm going to call them arrows because I think together it sort of looks like an arrow. So we're going to draw these now on each of these lines we just drew. And I'm going to start my first arrow about 1/2 inch up the line. So I'm going to draw 2/3 of a triangle or an arrow, and I'm going to draw 2 of them. And I'm going to space them apart by about 1/4 of an inch. And then right above that line, by about 1/16 of an inch from the end point of the line, I'm just going to draw a dot. So you're going to draw 2 arrows and a dot on each of these lines. And I'm going to start my first arrow about 1/2 inch up, and then a dot that's about 1/16 of an inch above the end point of the line. And we're going to do that to all of them. All right. And these arrows are about the same width as the hearts or the pairs of leaves. So they're about 1/4 of an inch or so wide. And it's okay if these are not perfect. It's all right for the purposes of this class. Don't fret if some of your arrows are a bit wonky looking or a bit bigger than another. That's okay. And then after you draw your arrows and dots, you can go ahead and erase what's inside the circle, because we don't need all those lines that go inside the circle. We just need the circle itself. And if you sort of erase a little bit of the circle, you can just fix it a little bit with your pencil. All right, so that is the very first snowflake, and that's the longest one. So moving on to our second snowflake. We're going to start by drawing the horizontal line.
Mandy, I know you're doing a great job of it, and I know this sounds like it's very technical, but as she said, you're right. You want to have it look as professional and as authentic as possible, but at the risk of getting stressed out and upset, it's okay. Just kind of go free form. And Mandy's giving you specifications in terms of the ruler and the measurements. So why don't you just listen to those, recognize this is being recorded, and we're going to try to help you out as much as we can along the way. Once again, the chat has all the information you need. We apologize for the confusion with the original posting, and not wanting to deter from Mandy's instructions any longer. So let's just follow along and do the best we can.
All right, thank you, Jeannie. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing the horizontal line that's on the middle snowflake. It's 2.5 inches, just like the top snowflake. So like I did with the top snowflake, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to place it on that dot I drew for the middle snowflake at 1.25 inches, because that's the middle point for the 2.5 inch line. And that will make sure the line is the same size on both sides of the center dot. And I'm going to draw my line from 0 to 2.5. And I have a horizontal line. Now this snowflake is unique because it only has 3 lines going through it. And neither of or none of them are a vertical line. So to not confuse us, I now want to erase what's left of that initial vertical line, going from the middle snowflake down to the dot I made for the bottom snowflake. So I'm not going to erase the dot for the bottom snowflake because I want to know where to place my marks. But this way, this vertical line won't confuse us now when we do these two diagonal lines that create an X. So just like I did with this top snowflake, I'm going to sort of sketch in a small light X to kind of help me with spacing and where to place my ruler. And I just want to point something out really quick. This X is more of like a narrow X. It's not a very wide X like this. It's more of a narrow X. So I'm going to sketch in a light small line going one way and then a light small diagonal line going the other way. And I'll pull this up to my camera so you can see a little bit better. And I want to make sure all of these 2/3 of a triangles are about the same size before I complete my X. And if one of these sort of 2/3 of a triangle are a lot wider than another one, then I'm going to erase the light X I drew and sort of redraw it and adjust to make sure that they're all about the same size. And then once I'm sort of happy with the placement and they all look to be the same size, then I'll take my ruler, I'll place it at 1 1/4 inches on that center dot, and then I'll draw my 2 diagonal lines. But this sort of helps with keeping it symmetrical. All right, so I drew 1 diagonal line and now I'm gonna draw the other diagonal line. And we've made another star. It's just a star with 3 lines instead of 6 like the one up top. All right, so to each of these now smaller lines, we'll say 6 smaller lines if we count the center as sort of the breaking point. We're going to draw more arrows, but instead of drawing 2 arrows like we did on the top snowflake, we're gonna draw 4 arrows on each of these smaller lines. So I'm gonna, and they're the same size. There's nothing different about them. We're just drawing 4 instead of 2. So I'm gonna start my first one about 1/4 inch up, and then I'll space them out by about 1/4 inch. And you should be able to fit 4 of them on each of those small lines. And I'm just gonna work my way around drawing these V's or 2/3 of a triangle, or I like to call them arrows. My daughter is in archery, so arrows are a part of our life. All right, so making my way around here. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is, it's light, it's in this teal color. There are 3 smaller lines that are in turquoise that go through the openings of the lines we just drew, and it's only 1 inch long. So I'm just going to draw a line that's about 1 inch long, going perfectly through each of these openings, and I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not going to use my ruler for this to save a little bit of time. And if you make one that's not quite centered, you can always just erase and readjust here. So I just drew 3 1 inch lines going through the center intersection and right in the middle of all those openings that are created. And then right above those 1 inch lines we just drew, we're going to draw 3 circles. We're going to draw the first one that's about 1/4 inch wide. The second one will be about 1/16 inch wide. And then the top one will just be a dot. All right, so it's kind of like drawing little snowmen on the snowflake. So you can watch, we're just gonna eyeball. You could use a stencil if you were to draw this on your own and not in a class that has a 1 hour limit. So I'm going to draw 1/4 inch, about 1/16 inch and a dot. So yeah, a little snowman there. So we're gonna do that to all of them. Right above those 1 inch lines you just drew, the end points of each of those 1 inch lines. And it's okay if your circles aren't perfect. Mine aren't perfect. They're only perfect if I use a stencil. All right. And so don't get caught up in the details. Use today to just learn the technique and the application and how we're doing this. And we're gonna mix our paint colors after we're done with this last snowflake. We're mixing enough paint that you should have enough for 2 of these projects. So you can just use one to learn and then use the other one to really take your time. All right, so for this last snowflake, we're gonna start by drawing another cross by drawing a horizontal line and a vertical line. And you guessed it, they're each gonna be 2.5 inches long. These snowflakes all have consistency with them. They all use some of the same design elements, but they're also unique, just like snowflakes. So I'm gonna hold my ruler up to the dot that I made for my very bottom snowflake at 1.25 inches, like I did with all the others. And I'm gonna draw my horizontal line from 0 to 2.5. And then I'm gonna turn and I'm going to draw my other 2.5 inch line to make my little cross in the same manner where I have my ruler up at 1.25 inches. And then I'm going to erase what's left of that very initial vertical line we drew to just leave another cross with right angles, okay? And then on each of these now smaller lines, we're going to do another series of 5 hearts or pairs of leaves that mirror each other. So it's the exact same as the very first snowflake we did. We're gonna start about 1/4 inch up, and we're gonna start with our hearts or pairs of leaves, and we're going to draw 5 of them on each of those 4 lines, okay? So the exact same as the very top snowflake. 5 hearts or pairs of leaves. And we're almost done here with the sketch. Just have a couple more lines to go. Okay, so just like with both snowflakes, we're going to draw just a really small light X going through the center of the snowflake so I can just make sure everything's measured up and even. And when I see that it is, I'm going to draw 2 more diagonal lines that are 2.5 inches long. So there's my first one. I'm gonna draw my second one, lining my ruler up at the 1.25 inch mark and using that small X I drew to sort of help me line up my ruler. All right, so you should have an X now or soon if you're a little bit behind, running through the bottom snowflake. And to draw these single leaves that you see where my finger is sort of pointing on them on my finished piece, what I want us to do first is on each of the lines we just drew, I want to make a small dot that is about 1/4 inch above center. So on this line here, here's center, about 1/4 inches here. I'm going to draw just a little dot. 1/4 inch, little dot. 1/4 inch, little dot. All right, so I just drew dots at 1/4 inch, and this is going to serve as the stopping point for our single leaves. Now, how we draw the single leaves is you can start at the bottom or you can start at the top. It doesn't really matter. I'll start at the top of this X here. I'm going to draw a curved line from this top edge of the line or endpoint of the line down to the dot I drew. So I'm going to draw a curved line going one direction, and then I'm going to draw another curved line going the other direction. So one direction and then the other direction to create a leaf. All right, and I'm going to do that to all of them. And like I said, you can start at the dot you drew or at the end point for the line. Either way is fine, but this is how we draw the single leaves. And again, don't get caught up if they're not all the same size. This one is smaller than all the others. That's okay. I'm not going to fret about it. And so now what we're going to do is above each thing that we drew, the single leaves and the hearts, we're going to draw a small 1/16 of an inch circle, about a 1/16 of an inch above. So a 1/16 of an inch above our hearts, a 1/16 of an inch above our single leaves, going all the way around. Just little tiny 1/16 of an inch sized circles. Okay, it's just a fun little, I think it is like a folk detail, and I love folk art. So I kind of try to bring that into these snowflake designs a little bit because I love folk art. Okay, very last thing we're going to draw are these diamonds and the little dot above them. Okay, so there's a little bit of an opening between our single leaves and our hearts or pairs of leaves. And I didn't want to just leave that blank. I wanted to put something in there. So let's just draw some small diamonds with a small dot above the top of the diamond in the opening or space in between our hearts and our single leaves. Now, diamonds are a hard thing to get perfectly symmetrical. So you can just draw another shape there. You can omit it if you don't mind having that empty space there. You can do another shape. But don't worry too much if the diamonds aren't perfectly symmetrical. These snowflakes aren't going to look perfect like they do in nature, and that's okay. They're still going to look really fun and pretty. All right. So there's our sketch.
It's just want to tell you we're at the halfway mark. So I know we wanted to let everyone know this was going to be a little bit lengthier, but the coloring and, you know, bringing these snowflakes to life is going to go quite quickly.
It is. I'm telling you, every time I practiced it, this is exactly where we were at when I was done drawing. So we were right on time, actually.
They look great. Right. They're all quite unique, and I'm sure everyone's out there is going to be just as unique. So I'm looking forward to it. When you have your finished snowflake artwork, we'd love for you to share it with us. You could, Mandy, put down the where you could send us the artwork at #MakeItWithMichaels. You could also send it to #WinsorNewton or share it with Mandy at Mandy Peltier Artist. So we would love to see your creations. Once again, the class is being recorded, and we feel like this is the fun part. So why don't we continue on?
Yes, this was an intricate design, so it was a bit ambitious for this class, but we did it. Okay, so grab your number 4 brush and let's just move it in the water for a few seconds to help the bristles of the brush evenly absorb the water. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my brush as if it were a spoon, and I'm going to scoop out water, and I'm going to put water in 5 of my holders on my palette. Okay, so I'm going to put 3 scoops of water in 5 different palette holders. Okay, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you see how fast I did that? I wasn't necessarily taking my time. I'm just scooping water, 3 scoops into 5 different holders on my palette. Okay. And this will allow less pigment waste. We'll be able to use this to help mix our colors. And what we're going to do now is we're going to be using the Ultramarine blue, which is the first blue on the top row, or it's the second from the left. It's this one here. And we're going to put Ultramarine blue in all 5 of these palettes. Okay, we're gonna, because ultramarine blue is like the base for all of our paint colors. So I'm gonna do 2 passes of the ultramarine blue into the first 3 palette holders. And what I mean by pass is I'm gonna take my brush, my wet brush, and I'm gonna rub it on the ultramarine blue a handful of times. And then I'm going to deposit it into the palette holder. So that was 1 pass. Then I'm going to just sort of wipe it on the edge of my palette holder, and then I'm going to do it a second time. So this is a second pass where you're sort of rubbing your brush into the paint a handful of times to help deposit the color. All right. So I did 2 passes into the first palette holder. I'm going to do 2 passes into the next one. So here's my first pass, and I'm going to do 1 more. And I'm going to do 2 passes of the ultramarine blue into the third palette. So 2 passes with the blue into your first 3 palettes. And then I'm only going to do 1 pass of the ultramarine blue into your last 2 holders, into the 4th and the 5th, because we're mixing 5 colors. All right, I love this color blue. It's so happy looking. All right. So what we're going to do after you do your 3 passes of blue into 3 palette holders, 2 passes into the 4th and 5th. So the very first one, we're going to turn it into a light blue. So I'm going to clean my brush by swishing it in the water for a second, then wiping the bristles on the edge of my water container a few times. And I'm going to add 2 passes of white to this first holder. And I actually have a little bit of yellow on my white, so I'm going to clean my brush again. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 pass with the white, deposit it into my blue. And so that I don't turn my white paint blue, I'm going to just quickly swish my brush in the water to clean it. And then do my second pass with the white. And we have a light blue now. And if that doesn't look light blue enough to you, you can always add a third pass of white. It's sort of a judgment call, but 2 passes is generally going to be enough. So we've made a light blue by mixing ultramarine blue and white. We're going to keep this second palette holder ultramarine blue only. So we're going to have a light blue, a middle valued blue, and this. So we're not going to do anything to the second one. To this third one, we're going to turn it into a navy blue or a dark blue. So clean your brush by swishing it in the water. And we're going to do 1 pass of color to the dark umber. Dark umber is the dark brown that's in your set, or it's the second brown on the bottom row. So it's the darkest color brown in your set. And you're just going to do 1 pass of brown, and you're going to add it to your third palette holder. If it looks too gray or gloomy, you can always add in a little bit more ultramarine blue. I got a little bit too ambitious with my dark umber there. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit more blue by adding some more ultramarine. It's such a pretty navy color. I really love it. Okay, so you made navy by mixing a bit of the dark umber into the ultramarine blue. To the fourth palette, we're going to mix teal or turquoise. So some people don't know this because it's kind of hard to identify what colors make teal, but teal is actually blue and green. So we are going to mix the teal by adding some Viridian green to the blue that's already in that little holder. Viridian green is on the bottom row, far left. It's the first green in your set. And we're going to do 1 pass of color with the Viridian green. And it makes a really pretty dark teal color, but we need to lighten that up. That's too dark. So we're going to now do 2 passes of white into the teal palette holder. So I'm going to quickly switch my brush, clean it. I'm going to do my first pass of white into this holder. Quickly swish my brush in the water and then do a second pass with the white. And that really lightens it up and gives me the right hue for the turquoise. All right, so this one we added 1 pass of green to it and 2 passes with the white. And then for the last holder, we're gonna make purple with it. So we already have our blue. We make purple by mixing blue with red. So we already have our blue. So we wanna add this Alizarin Crimson. It's the only red that's in the set. It's in the top row, 4th from the left. We're gonna do 1 pass with the Alizarin Crimson into the blue, and it makes such a pretty purple color. I love it. And it's too dark though. We wanna lighten it up. So just like we did with the teal, just like we did with the light blue, we're gonna add 2 passes of the white. So swish your brush to clean it. 1 pass with the white, and then a second pass with the white, and it'll give us a really pretty light purple color. I just love this color palette. It's so, you don't think of cool colors as being like warm and friendly, but I just feel like this palette feels really friendly and calming. All right, so those are the 5 colors we're going to use, and we're now ready to get to the fun part. And I'm done with this. I'm going to put it aside. This is enough paint for you to draw these snowflakes, and likely enough for you to even do a second set. So we're going to start by still using our number 4 brush, and then we'll put it away. All right, but we're going to start on the very top snowflake, the one that takes the longest, and we're going to start with the middle circle. So I'm going to start with the turquoise color, and I'm going to use this color on the whole right half of the circle. So I put my brush in the paint. I'm going to wipe it maybe once or twice on the edge to remove any excess paint. And I'm going to apply it to the entire right side of the center circle, just like that. And then I'll quickly swish my brush. I like to have a towel because I can dab my wet brush on the towel a few times just to remove excess water, because the paint is already the right consistency. We don't necessarily want to keep adding water to it. So you can wipe the bristles on the edge of the water container. You can also dab it a couple times on the paper towel. And then I'm going to use my navy blue, and I'm going to apply that to the left half of the circle. And I'm going to let these two colors bleed into each other. I'm not going to fuss with it. I'm not going to move my brush where they meet. I'm just going to let them bleed into each other as they want to merge. Bleed's probably not the best word, but you know what I mean? Blend and merge into each other however they want. And then I'm going to quickly clean my brush and I'm going to grab my number 2. So we're done with the number 4 until we get to the very end here. So we're going to use the number 2 for everything else. Move your water move your brush in the water since we haven't used the number 2 yet. And now what we're going to do is we're going to apply color to all of the lines that have the hearts or pairs of leaves on them. So pretending this is a clock and this here is 12 o'clock and this is 11 o'clock. We're going to do the 11 o'clock and the 12 o'clock lines with the hearts on them. And both of these lines are only going to receive the ultramarine blue. So I'm going to take my number 2 pencil, or not pencil, I think I did this in the last class too, number 2 brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my brush like it's a pencil. I'm just going to use the very tip of my brush and I'm going to apply it to the line on 11 o'clock. And then I'm going to use the tip of my brush and I'm just going to outline these leaves or hearts. And I really like it when some of them are just outlined, but some of them accidentally or purposely get filled in with color. I think it adds some nice visual interest and some variety. I'm all about variety. Just ask my husband. It's the spice of life is what he likes to say to me, because I really love variety. So I like to just use the tip of my brush as a pencil and outline the leaves and maybe fill in a couple of them, maybe not fill in a couple of them. But you can do what you want. You can only outline all of them, or you can outline some and fill in others, or just fill in all of them. And you may notice that the blue will bleed into the center circle a little bit. That's okay. We want that. We don't mind it. We're going to just let it do its thing. We're not going to fuss with it. And then when it's all dry, it will have a cool sort of tie-dye effect. It's really fun. So right now we're just applying the ultramarine blue or the middle blue to the 11 o'clock and the 12 o'clock lines, outlining all the hearts or pairs of leaves and maybe just filling in a couple of them if you want. And while you guys are finishing that, I just want to maybe teach you something real quick. This is a color wheel. And the color palette for this particular project, I'm calling a monochrome analogous palette. So monochrome means one color, and we have 3 shades of blue, right? So we have the light blue, the middle blue, the dark blue. But we also have a purple and we have a teal, which are on both sides of blue on the color wheel, which make it analogous. Because when you have 3 or more colors right next to each other on a color wheel, it makes it analogous. So I'm calling this particular beautiful color palette a monochrome analogous palette. So I just wanted to point that out really quick. Okay, so to the next 2 lines, if we're working clockwise, the next 2 lines, we're going to apply 2 colors. We're going to apply navy blue and ultramarine blue, but our brush already has ultramarine blue on it, right? So to eliminate having to clean our brush all the time, let's apply the ultramarine blue first. So where we're going to apply the ultramarine blue on the next 2 lines with the hearts on them is to the top 3 hearts and the line that goes through them. So to the top 3 hearts on the next 2 lines, let's apply the same blue color. To speed things along, we're not going to be cleaning our brush as much. We're going to sort of work smarter, not harder. So one way we're doing that is just going ahead and filling in the top 3 hearts on the next 2 lines, since they use the same color we just used. So again, to the next 2 lines, we're applying ultramarine blue to the top 3 hearts and the line that goes through them. And then you can quickly clean your brush, wipe it off, dab it on a paper towel if you want. And then to the remainder of the line and to the bottom 2 hearts, we're going to use our navy or dark blue. And then where these 2 colors meet, let them bleed into each other, let them do their thing, let them mingle. Don't fuss with it. Don't run your brush over them. Just let them merge into each other as they want. All right. So we have navy blue on the bottom 2, ultramarine blue on the top 2 or top 3. And now I will quickly clean my brush, wipe it off, dab it on the paper towel. And the next two lines, the bottom two hearts and the line that goes through them will receive the ultramarine blue. And the top three hearts and the line that goes through those will receive the teal color. So I'm going to start with my middle blue, my ultramarine blue, and to the next two lines, I'm going to apply that to the bottom two hearts or leaves and the line that goes through them. So I'm going, the paint won't dry quick enough to where we have to clean our brush or work just one line at a time. We can work both lines at the same time and apply ultramarine blue to the bottom two hearts on both lines. And then we can quickly clean our brush, pick up the turquoise and apply it to what's left on these two lines. So we're kind of making like a gradient or kind of ombre effect as we go around the snowflake with each of these lines with the hearts on them receiving a different color.
It looks really good, Mandy. That word just came to mind too. Green. It's just, they're all going to blend together. And like I said, however, the participants have blended their colors, it's going to ever so slightly look different, but they're all going to be unique. It looks really good. We got about a quarter, with 3/4 of the way through. So just want to pace everyone and let them know that we will run, if we do run over, we're going to still stay online with you. But once again, it'll all be recorded, and just let's keep following along with Mandy.
All right, to these last two lines, the bottom two hearts are going to receive the light blue. So this is the first time we're using the light blue. So bottom two are going to receive light blue. And then the top three will receive the purple color. So I'm starting with light blue here, and I'm applying it to the bottom two hearts on both of those remaining lines, swishing my brush to clean it. And then I'm going to pick up that purple color, and I'm going to apply it to what's left.
So we use the light blue?
So with this particular project, it is very beginner friendly, but it does require a lot of line work, a lot of thin lines with small brushes. So that can take some practice. I was terrible at line work when I first started using brushes. I'm a colored pencil artist usually. And so I'm used to working with a pencil and a point and having more control than what you can with a brush. You really have to learn to have control with the brush. So if you're not used to line work, you can just practice on a scrap sheet of paper. It will come to you, I promise. It just takes practice. Okay, so the lines that are left on this top snowflake, they're all going to receive the same process. Starting at the circle, the center circle, the line and the first arrow are all going to receive the teal color. And then what's left of the line or the top arrow and the rest of the line are going to receive the light blue color. So I'm going to start by using just teal, and I'm going to start at the circle, apply it to each line, the first arrow, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next line, apply teal to the line and the first arrow. And I'm going to work my way around, and I'm going to apply teal to the line and the first arrow. And then I'll go over top of each of these with the purple or the light blue color, sorry, the light blue color. So this teal is not going to dry so fast that we can't just go ahead and apply this color to all of the lines to save a little bit of time and cleaning of your brush. So I'm applying teal to everything first that needs teal. And then I'll quickly swoosh, clean my brush, and I'll apply the light blue to what's remaining. All right, and then once you're done with the teal, clean your brush, pick up the light blue, and we'll apply that to what's left of the lines and to the very top arrow on what's left.
Mandy, it's great to see. We even have, the kids that are joining us today, and they're following along diligently. Everyone's really intent to get this project done. But like I said, we want you to enjoy it now. Look at it in 24 hours. It'll be posted at michaels.com/classes.
Oh, already done. Okay.
Hello, anyone. If your microphone is open, can you please mute your microphone, please?
Just said that the kids are doing very good. Good for you, Papa.
I love teaching kids, and kids are so fast to pick up on things. I love that about kids. I started off teaching homeschoolers, and man, are they sharp. We could get through most complex things so quickly. They just like absorb like little sponges, everything you throw at them. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do on the snowflake are these little dots that are above the lines with the arrows on them. And we're going to do that with the dark navy. I'm going to show you how I do this. I'm going to hold my brush straight up and down, and I'm just going to lightly dab my brush onto those dots. And we're talking lightly because I just want to deposit just a dot of color. So I do that by just holding my brush straight up and down and just dropping it right onto those dots, just like that. So I'm not using the thick part of my brush, just straight up and down, just using the very tip to dot on the navy blue. Okay, so we are ready for the middle snowflake. Now, all of the lines with the arrows on them are going to receive the exact same technique or process. Okay, so we are going to use the ultramarine blue for the bottom half of each of these lines, and then we'll use the light blue for the top half. So ultramarine will be applied to the bottom half, including the bottom two arrows, and then light blue to everything else. So I'm going to start with my ultramarine blue. I'm going to start at the center of my snowflake on each of these lines with the arrows on it. And I'm going to apply it to the bottom part of the line and the bottom two arrows. And I'm going to apply the ultramarine to first before I apply the light blue. All right, and you can turn your work as you go if it helps you maintain control. It does help me maintain control because it kind of allows me to work from the same angle. Just be careful of that top snowflake that is still drying. You might be like me and you might like to rest your wrist on the paper, whether purposely or accidentally, and then you might smear the paint. So if you were to make this again at your own pace, you could just wait for this top snowflake to dry, or you could use a blow dryer to dry it more quickly. Whatever you want to do to sort of help. But I know today it's like fire hose version because we only have an hour together. But tomorrow, if you rewatch it, you can always pause as needed to keep up better. All right, so I've just applied the ultramarine blue to the bottom half of each of those lines with the arrows on them. And now I'm going to apply the light blue to what's left of these lines. And while we're applying light blue to the left of these lines, I guess I'll take a moment just to share when this class is done. I love to see the finished work of my students. Nothing makes me happier than seeing your artwork and to see what you created. So use those hashtags that I'm covering up right now, the Make It with Michaels and the Winsor and Newton. You can tag me on, I'm all across social media. My handle pretty much everywhere, or my link pretty much everywhere, is Mandy Peltier Artist. So you can either tag me, or you can even go to my website, mandypeltier.com, and there's a contact tab on my website where you can send me an email. And if you write me, I will write you back. I love to keep in touch with my students, and prior students of mine can attest to that. I love to keep in touch with you all, and just even help with anything you're working on and just see your artwork. So it really makes my day. All right. So that is the center snowflakes. Mine are a bit sloppy today because I was talking as I was working, but that's okay. The next thing we're going to do is apply purple to the larger circles that are part of this snowflake. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to move it in a circular manner and just fill in those circles. And I'm only going to apply more paint to my brush if I need to. If I have enough paint on my brush to sort of make my way all the way around, then I'm going to allow that to happen. So just use your brush in a circular manner to apply purple to the larger of the circles. And then you'll use the turquoise or teal color to the middle circles. And these are smaller circles, so I'm still using the same circular stroke. It's just not as wide, because this is a smaller circle. And because I already have teal on my brush, because that's the color we just used, let's go ahead and use teal right now to those smaller 1-inch lines that intersect all the blue lines. So I'm just going to very carefully use my brush, the very tip of it, and just run lines through the center of the snowflake. The cool thing is the blue is not completely dry yet, so the colors will sort of merge together a little bit in the very center of the snowflake and give us a cool effect when it's dry. And then I can clean my brush, and we're going to use that dark navy color on the small dots, just like we did on the top snowflake. So I'm once again holding my brush straight up and down and just using the very tip to deposit the dark navy pigment. All right. So that's the middle snowflake. I told you the middle one wouldn't take very long, and neither does the last one. The last one also moves really quick. Okay, so this last one, we're gonna start with the small lines that have the hearts or pairs of leaves on them, and every single one receives the same process or application of color, and it's the exact same as these two on the top snowflake, where the bottom two hearts will receive dark navy and the top three will receive the ultramarine blue. So I'm going to start with my dark navy, and I'm going to apply that to all the lines, to the bottom two hearts, and to the line that goes through them. And you can outline with your brush, fill in some of the petals or hearts if you want. I typically just let my brush kind of do what it wants. But I really like having some negative space in my artwork. I think it adds visual interest, especially for a project like this, where we're only applying one layer of color to each section. It kind of gives it that loose, flowy watercolor look, I think, by having the negative space, and just adds some more visual interest since we're not using as many colors or even layers of color. And then once you're done with the navy, swish your brush, clean it, dab it on your paper towel, and then use ultramarine to the remainder of these lines. And I should share, beginning of February, I am going to be teaching 2 classes just a week apart. The first class is going to be Valentine's Day cards, and that's February 2nd, same time as this class. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to be using the same watercolor set, and I'll teach you some gradient techniques. I'll teach you how you can get colors to really bleed into each other, similar to this, but on a larger scale, as we'll be doing it to hearts. And then just a week later, we'll be making these blooms, these flower blooms. And those are actually made with Winsor & Newton drying inks, which are really fun to work with. They are similar to watercolor, but also very different. So if you've never used drying inks, join that class and learn something new. We only use 2 colors for that particular class, and I'll show you how beautifully they layer and how you can get different opacities with them. Because just like with watercolors, you can dilute drying inks with water. And so we'll be doing that for that class. So I hope you'll join me for both of those as well.
Mandy, we're really excited about that. So as we're getting close to the end here, we're going to continue on. We're going to run over just a bit because you're moving along swiftly here. We just want to let everyone know, as I said earlier, the classes are being recorded. They'll be available at michaels.com/classes in about 24 hours. You're also going to receive a survey to give us some great feedback about Mandy and about the snowflakes. And as you see, we're going to have lots more classes that she's going to be presenting to you. So give us your feedback, because we want to keep everyone painting with our Winsor products. And we're going to start to diversify a little bit, as Mandy mentioned. So once again, post your finished artworks with us, share them, the hashtags that she has posted there, and then hopefully we'll see some great artwork, and we're going to wrap it up soon. So enjoy.
And we're not going to go that much over. You guys may not believe me, but this is going to come together super, super fast. Okay, so we already have ultramarine blue on our brush. So we're going to keep using the ultramarine blue, and we're going to apply it to all of the diamonds. So watch me. I'm not really taking my time and outlining it. I'm just running it over the diamonds. And I don't really want it to cover all of the tooth of the paper. I want it to have some negative space. I already told you about the negative space thing and my sort of obsession with it. So you don't have to outline it and make it perfect. Just sort of squiggle your brush over it to fill in the color. And that may take some practice because it's our habit to want to get things absolutely perfect. And with watercolor, you kind of have to loosen up a little. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll apply the purple color to the 16th inch sized circles that are above the hearts and the single leaves that we'll do very last because it uses a number 4 brush and we're using the number 2 right now. So you're going to use that same circular motion with your brush that you used on the middle snowflake. Then quickly clean your brush, dab it on your paper towel, and we'll take our teal color and we're just going to draw an X through the center intersection right here. So we're not going to apply it onto the single leaves with that X that's sort of there for that spacing that was created when we drew the dots for a 1/4 inch to mark the end point for the single leaves. And then quickly clean your brush, dab it. We'll use our navy blue for the small dots that are above each diamond in the exact same manner as the previous 2 snowflakes where you hold your brush straight up and down and you just sort of dot it on. And then we are done with our number 2 brush. We can put that aside and we'll pull back down our 4. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do the single leaves. Okay. So to the single leaves, the entire left edge of each of the leaves are going to receive the purple color. The right edge are going to receive the teal color. We're going to try and leave the middle of the leaf blank for that negative space. So I'm going to pick up some purple and I'm going to apply it to the left edge of each of the single leaves before I then apply the teal to the right edge. So I'm going to start at the top of the leaf and I'm going to just pull it down to the bottom in just one stroke. And I'm going to do that to the left edge of all of the single leaves. I guess on the bottom it appears to be different, but the left edge, and if you get it wrong, don't worry about it, it's fine. If you accidentally do some on the right, some on the left, and then you're going to pick up your teal and you're going to apply it to the other side. And you're going to let those colors merge into each other as they want. So you can see I'm not fussing with where they meet. I'm just letting them do what they want. So just in a single stroke, we're applying this teal color. And we're not going to fill in the middle. We're going to allow it to stay blank and have that negative space. And with that, we're 2 minutes over and we're finished. So this is the project. And I know I went really fast, but you can see that they all sort of have some of the same elements, the same process, the same technique. And, you know, they just use the 5 colors and you can see how much paint I still have left in my palette. So I have plenty if I wanted to then take my time, draw a nice a symmetrical sketch of it and do it again. So I'll just switch to my other camera real quick so you can see my face as we say goodbye to each other. I had a great time with you all today. I love these classes. I love spending it with you. So please feel free to stay in touch with me. Mandy Peltier Artist again is my handle, and my my website is mandypeltier.com, and you can contact me from there. I will be checking out the hashtags Make It With Michaels and Winsor & Newton to look for your snowflakes. And I hope I see you in February for my next 2 coming classes. So have a great day, everyone.
Mandy.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.